All right, welcome everyone. This is Hank Dietert. I'm being joined by Coach Glenn Hill, the head coach of the Navarro Panthers, and I'm also being joined by Scot Kibbe, the Navarro football historian. And Coach, thank you for joining us tonight, as well as you, Scott.
Absolutely.
Well, Coach, you had a close one, a heartbreaker, for us to go to Wimberley and only lose 31-28. I mean, wow, what a game! And we had a chance to win it. A few little calls here or there, they go our way. I mean, that game is totally different, and that's how close that game was. And the score indicates that as well in this case. And y'all were right there, and so. Man, can you give us some insights? I know it was exciting from up in the booth when we called it.
It was. It was an exciting night. It was a fun game, just back and forth with those guys. Wimberley's been a great team for a long time, and they still are right now. But I was proud of how our guys continued to answer, and I believe there was 7 or so lead changes throughout the night. I wish there was 8. I wish we had one more lead change there at the end. But
Yes.
all credit to them, and they've got a great team and a great staff, and they were able to pull it out in the end. But I think we had a great effort, and our kids fought really, really hard all night long, and there was some great individual performances as well as just the team. Offense, defense, special teams all had some great moments last Friday night.
Coach, you're 1-4, but so close to being 4-1. It just seems like some plays here and there in all those games could have been won. For your team, is it? I guess how do you avoid frustration, or are they feeling that, or are they feeling kind of what's their attitude coming into this week, hitting the second half of the schedule?
Yeah, I think they can taste it. I think they can sense how close we are to being 4-1 and to having a much different record than we have, and that's part of learning how to be a winning program. This school has had a great track record of success over many decades, and we're just trying to get back into that winning way and having a winning culture. And so much of that is when you're in those close games, you find a way to win. And I think our guys are learning those ways to win. They're getting a taste of it, and hopefully here sometime very soon, preferably this Friday night, we're able to finally get over the hump and get that taste.
All right, Coach. Now, for your offense, I mean, you had a player showing total yards for Trotty. He's up to around 718. There might be a little bit of discrepancy on the exact, yardage, but I mean, that's a credit to your offensive line and what they're able to do. And I know it's not just, the 5 up there. I mean, it takes everybody, backs as well, to block and do the things they're doing. I mean, but, having over 200 and over 230 yards in a game, that's quite remarkable.
It is, and you mentioned that the offensive line is blocking great. And, it's taken a few weeks for them to truly master our schemes. So we just run a handful of them. But week to week, you can see that they're not just doing what the coaches are saying anymore. I think they truly understand what these blocking schemes are. They've been handling multiple fronts and front changes throughout games and just really showing a mastery of that. And that's opening up some big holes for our running backs. And Dylan's a great player. And, he's getting untouched 3 or 4 yards. And then if you have a good player, he can extend those plays even longer. And then our tight end, fullbacks, and receivers, we live under the no block, no rock mentality. So we've got some receivers blocking third level players, and a few of those showed their face on Friday night to where, Dylan got to the third level and we had a receiver blocking a safety, and it would spring him for a much longer game.
Scott?
It felt like also the passing game really started to come together Friday night. You had 15 yards passing in the first half, 90 in the second half. So much of it's timing, but it felt like maybe some of that kind of got there in the second half. Do you feel like you built some confidence in that game, in the passing game from the second half?
Yeah, I do. And we had some big conversions, a 3rd and 12, a 3rd and 17, I believe. And so much of that is just repetitions. We can get hundreds and thousands of reps in practice, on air against scout teams. But Friday night lights going against a really good team, that's different to maintain your timing and to build a rapport with quarterbacks and receivers. Much of them playing together for the first time. We've got some young receivers. We've got a quarterback that didn't even play football last year. So they're building confidence in each other, and day by day in practice, you can see them really improving. And that's just like the offensive line with the run game. Our passing game is getting some momentum as well. And we're really close to, looking through the film again, we were really close to having probably twice that in passing yards if we can just click on a few more things. And that's stuff that we're working on all week in practice, and we fully expect for that to continue to expand.
All right, Coach. Now we move on to your next opponent, which is Salado. And Salado's coming in off of a big overtime win against Lago Vista, who's been a tough team in the district for the last couple of years. And so, right now, what do you think is going to be some of the the biggest challenges that Salado presents?
I would say their multiplicity, offensively and defensively. They get in a whole bunch of sets, formations on offense, and run some different schemes, and they do them all pretty well. So we're going to have to be able to communicate defensively, coaches from the sideline to the press box, down to the field to our athletes, just be able to adjust to their sets and trust our rules. And there's going to be times to where we don't have time to send in a different call defensively, and our guys got to know what their jobs are and what their keys are. And same thing goes offensively. A little bit different with their front than what we've seen the last couple of weeks. They've been basing out of a 4-down. We've been playing, I would say, more 3-down fronts than 4-downs here lately. So it's a little bit different. They've got 3 linebackers in the box. They do a whole bunch of different coverages. They'll run some cover 3, some cover 2, some man-to-man. None of that is anything that spooks us off of our schemes. But what it does do is it makes you focus in on your assignments and rules.
Yeah, Coach. The one thing I did want to point out, I know Scott has a question, is that they are very balanced on the offensive side, where they run just as well as they pass. They're almost even in both those categories. They're 50-50, it looks like.
Yeah, they're very balanced, and that's part of the problem, that they do some different things, but there's no real tells, there's no real tendencies, and sometimes you can pick up on some of those things, but, clearly these athletes and this staff, they do a really nice job of mixing it up and keeping a defense honest. So we'll have to be ready for anything and everything, and they've got some good players to go along with it. They've got some guys that play a bunch of different positions. Number 16, his name is slipping me right now. I'm sure I'll remember it here as soon as I wrap up this answer. But he's a great player. He lines up as an H-back. He's played some wildcat. He's
Tight end.
some tight end, receiver, catching balls, running the ball. So he's all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's Landon Noski.
There you go. Landon's a good one.
Scott?
I think it's Salado beating Lago might probably surprise some people, but that and the closeness of your game with Wimberley, I think just kind of maybe emphasizes how tight this district is. It seems like it seemed like a 5-team race at least for those 4 slots. Do you see any team pulling away in this district, or is there any team fading? I mean, does this look to you like it's going to go like every team's going to be in it to the end?
Yeah, I don't see many off weeks coming up for us in our future. Salado's a great team, and they just beat another great team. We got Gerald next week, and they haven't lost a game this year. That's typically a sign of being pretty dang good. So it's a really loaded district, and I'd like to think that we're very much a part of that, and we're one of those great teams, and we need to just get our business together, and hopefully we're showing up on top here in a few weeks.
All right, Coach. Now, when we talk about Navarro, your football team there, that we're seeing improvements every week, and last week had to be the biggest jump, and so now, as far as our offense goes, what are some of the things that you're seeing that the kids have adjusted to? I know you had talked about earlier about the offensive line, but what else that a typical fan may not see that you're seeing now with the team as the offense as they're starting to gel?
Yeah, I would say just their adjustments, their ability to have in-game adjustments for us to communicate some stuff that maybe the defense is lining up differently. And sometimes, honestly, it's not even the coaches doing it; it's the athletes that now. We talked about the O line really understanding and comprehending what our schemes are. I think that's across the board. Our guys get it. Today, just to use an example, I called a play wrong in practice on our practice script, and we had about 5 guys in the huddle look over like, "Coach, what the heck? We can't do that. That's not how that's supposed to be." To me, that made me really proud, made me really happy. I was upset that I messed up a play in practice, but we had a bunch of guys in the huddle look over, and I feel like a couple of weeks ago, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, they wouldn't have done that. They just would have said okay and tried to run that play. But that shows me that they get it, they understand, and when they can start picking up on even me saying something wrong in a play, that shows me a whole lot of growth.
Yeah, and Coach, I put up Evan Rodriguez's a little bit of the stats that we had, and showing that he's become the leading receiver in both receptions and number of receptions and receiving yards. The deep threat, I think, has been now, more than ever that Navarro's have been able to do than they have before in the past. And I mean that even in this recent season, it seems like we are now really a threat deep as well, and that's keeping your running game going, keeping it open as well. And can you tell us a little bit how that's played out?
Sure, yeah, it all goes. We really believe as a staff that we don't need to have a run play that we don't have a good pass off of, and we don't need to have a good pass play. We don't just go up there and draw up different pass routes. It needs to fit with our run scheme. So everything kind of marries together really well. And you mentioned Evan; he's a really great player, good deep threat, great hands, consistent. But he's good in the intermediate game as well. And some of those catches that he has are on shallow routes or quick game, and he's able to break the first tackle and get positive yards very frequently. But we have him and several other guys are stepping up their role in the receiver room, and got some tight ends. Brad Galini, I think, has 15 or 20 catches on the year. Um, Emerson Elder is kind of a Swiss Army knife, running the football,
Yeah.
catching the football, returning the football. And then we have some other receivers that may not be piling up the stats, but I anticipate that their stats are going to increase as the year goes on. Not because we're stat hunting or anything like
Right.
that, but we have a pretty talented room that's starting to understand the pass game a little bit. So we've got a few other guys that hopefully are making their mark in that area.
Okay, Scott.
I'll ask about special teams. I feel like it's been kind of a mixed bag at times this year. We've had some good returns, everything, but we've given up a lot in returns, and sometimes giving teams good field position. Is that something fixable? Is it something that you can do different with scheme, or is it just execution?
Yeah, some of it is just execution. I would say, we work on it in practice very frequently. And, the bad thing about the kickoff unit is every school in the United States of America, they put their best cat back there. And, sometimes we're there at the point of attack and he's making a play. There's a few times last week to where we had 3, 4, 5 guys unblocked. And, they made a play. And that's the way football goes sometimes. And, we got to start making those plays, and I believe we will. And we've got the right guys on those units. We're not kicking anybody to the curb. We're just going to keep on hammering down on what we believe in and that scheme, and it's going to improve. I've seen a bunch of improvement in all of our special teams units this year, and last week we had a couple slips up in that unit, but it's going to get better. They've had a good week of practice. They watch the film. They study it hard. We're treating that no different than an offensive or a defensive play. So we fully believe that's going to continue to grow for us.
Right.
All right, Coach. Now, on special teams, I have to say we've seen a real improvement in the kicking game itself. The placement of the ball, the extra points for our kicker, Carl is now getting the spots I think that you're looking for as a coach, but the coverage is seems to be doing well. But overall, I'm really impressed with our returns and everything with our special teams. And can you give us some other insight to that I'm missing?
No, we just have a ton of confidence in what we're doing in our special teams units, and we don't just believe in not working it. We're going to work special teams units every single day. We start practice. We have special teams units in transition from offense to defense. We watch film on it immediately after practice. We have unit meetings on those special teams unit after school. We meet on it as a staff every Sunday all together. That's how we start off our Sunday staff meeting, is breaking down our special teams for the week. So really just no different than offense and defense. We're expecting some growth in it every single week. And, they're all new schemes to our guys, and they're picking up on them and they're improving with it. And you mentioned Hagan is doing a much better job with his placement of his kicks, and he's kicking the ball really well right now. And all those units they're tough. Special teams are really, really tough things to get good at. But they're not just plays that we're going to overlook. They're not things that we don't work on. We're not going to try to be tricky with it. We just need to continue to work on them, and I think we've seen some growth with it, and there's still plenty of growth yet to be made.
And Coach, it's really nice to see a kicker that likes to hit too, though. I have to give him that.
Yeah, he doesn't mind hitting somebody. You should see him in the weight room. He can throw some weight around. So
That's
I don't want anybody to breach the first line, but if they do, he'll be waiting for him back there.
Yes. Scott?
No, nothing else.
Nothing else. And so we've touched a little bit on defense, but your defense held up, pretty well. I know Wimberley just seems to have a knack of figuring out, what's working. They do a great job at adjusting during the game, but I thought your defense played well. I just, for me as a fan, I kind of have a feeling that we just need a little bit more depth, and we can, get a little bit of rest for one guy or another here and there, because we do have quite a few playing both ways. But can you comment about your defense from what you saw last week into what you're going to have to do this week?
Yeah, I think up front, and it all starts up front, both sides of the ball, but our defensive line is playing great right now, and they're getting into better shape. I think that's part of it. They're not getting tired. They're not tapping out, which is good. They're playing with their hands really well. I think our linebackers they're evolving every single week, and what they do is really difficult, to play our Mike, Will, and Sam linebacker. And they're starting to kind of be the leaders out there. They're the ones making the call. They're the ones kind of communicating to the D-line up front if there's any adjustments that need to be made. And that's something that's going to be critical for us this week with Salado, with how many different formations they run and how often they motion. It's going to be on those guys to communicate out there. They won't be able to look over and have Coach Risen giving them a new call or anything like that. It's going to have to be them on the field, and we have full confidence and trust that they're going to make those calls.
All right. Scott, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
All right. Well then, Coach, we'll get to the segment of the show to give us your three keys to victory to win over Salado, and thank God we're at home too.
Yeah, we're at home. It's going to be an exciting night. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We got Future Panthers night. We're going to have 53 of our youth league players out there. Teacher appreciation night, so we're going to try to get some teachers running through the tunnel as well. Wow. I know it's the youth cheer clinic night because my daughter will be on the sideline cheering. I think band has something going on as well.
Wow.
So be ready for some chaos. Be ready for some people on the field. And hopefully we can give them a good show with some football as well. But we just got to be consistent, continue to improve like we have every single week, continue to gain confidence, handle their multiplicity both offensively and defensively is going to be a big key for us.
All right. Well, thank you, Coach. Scott?
Future Panther night, they call it Little Panther night, I think. I don't know how long it's been going on. I've been here 34 years. It was going on before I got here. So it's kind of one of our oldest traditions, I guess, at the Bureau.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's great to see them. They're out there practicing after school on the turf, and I got to go out there and watch them too. They're getting after it. The future looks good.
That's great. All right, Coach, thank you for joining us tonight, and I wish you all the best of luck against Salado, and we bid you a good night, and we'll let you say farewell.
All right, thank you, guys. I appreciate everything y'all do for our program, and let's go Panthers.
Thank you, Coach. Go Panthers.